The moment that changed everything happened on a Friday afternoon in November when my courtroom doors burst open and in walked someone who'd built an empire teaching men that women are property, that violence is strength, that dominance is masculinity. Andrew Tate, 37 years old. Former kickboxing champion turned self-proclaimed alpha male guru. Net worth estimated at $350 million from his online courses teaching men how to manipulate women, his Hustlers University pyramid scheme, and his webcam business empire that multiple countries were investigating for human trafficking. He walked in like he owned the place. Dressed in a $12,000 Loro Piana suit, a Patek Philippe watch worth $280,000 on his wrist, and sunglasses that he didn't bother to remove indoors. Behind him came 6 people, 3 attorneys from a firm that specialized in defending wealthy men accused of violence against women, 2 bodyguards built like NFL linebackers, and a videographer filming everything for his social media channels where he had 8.7 million followers across platforms. But sitting in the front row of the gallery, looking small and frightened, was someone who represented everything Andrew Tate claimed to despise. Sarah Mitchell, 34 years old, single mother of 2, Uber driver working 60 hours a week to support her kids after her husband left. She wore simple clothes from Target, her hands still showed bruises from where Tate had grabbed her wrists 2 weeks ago, and her face carried healing scratches where his Bugatti keychain had cut her cheek when he'd thrown it at her face. The charges were aggravated assault, battery, criminal threatening, and destruction of property. According to the police report and Uber's internal camera footage, Andrew Tate had requested a ride from a Miami nightclub to his rented mansion at 2 a.m. Sarah had arrived promptly, professional and polite. But Tate had gotten in drunk, accompanied by 2 women he'd met at the club, and immediately started making sexual comments to Sarah. When she politely asked him to stop, he'd exploded. He'd called her a low-value woman who should be grateful a high-status male was even speaking to her. When she threatened to end the ride, he'd grabbed her wrist, twisted it, and told her that women like her exist to serve men like him. When she'd pulled over and demanded he exit, he'd punched the back of her seat, cracked her phone mounted on the dashboard, thrown his metal keychain at her face, and screamed that he could destroy her life with one phone call to Uber's executives who he claimed were his friends. Uber's internal camera captured everything. Police arrested Tate at his mansion 3 hours later. And now he stood in my courtroom, a 37-year-old man who'd made millions teaching young men that women are inferior, that violence against women is justified, that real men dominate and control. He clearly believed his wealth, his fame, his millions of followers who worshipped him, would make this disappear. What I did in the next 32 minutes didn't just shock the courtroom. It sparked a war in the Manosphere, divided his millions of followers, trended worldwide on every social media platform, and proved that in America, when the system works correctly, no amount of money, no amount of online influence, no toxic masculinity ideology places anyone above the law. If you believe that teaching millions of men to hate women is dangerous, that violence against women is never justified regardless of your ideology, that judges must defend victims even when facing internet celebrities with cult-like followings, hit that subscribe button right now because what I'm about to do will restore your faith that misogyny can still be defeated by justice. Mr. Tate, I began, and immediately I could see him smirking. He didn't stand. He didn't show respect. He sat there with his legs spread wide, sunglasses still on, scrolling through his phone like my courtroom was beneath him. Mr. Tate, stand up and remove your sunglasses. You're in a court of law. He looked up slowly, made a show of sighing dramatically, then stood with exaggerated laziness. He removed his sunglasses with one hand, never breaking eye contact with me, his face showing pure contempt. When he spoke, his British-American accent carried the rehearsed confidence of someone who'd spent years performing for cameras. Your Honor, with all due respect, this is a waste of my time. I'm a multi-millionaire entrepreneur with businesses in 14 countries. I have 8.7 million people waiting for my content. And I'm here because some Uber driver got offended by words. This is absurd. Mr. Tate, you're charged with aggravated assault, battery, criminal threatening, and destruction of property. These aren't word crimes. These are violence crimes. How do you plead? Not guilty. Obviously. That woman is lying. She's a low-value female looking for a payout from a high-status male. It's the oldest game in the book. She probably planned this. Got in my car, I got in her car, she provoked me, recorded me, and now she wants money. This is what modern women do. They weaponize the system against successful men. His lead attorney, Marcus Webb, stood quickly. Your Honor, my client is passionate about his innocence, but let me be clear. Mr. Tate is a public figure who has been systematically targeted by authorities in multiple countries because his message threatens the feminist establishment. This case is part of a larger pattern of persecution against men who dare to speak uncomfortable truths about gender dynamics. Mr. Webb, your client is charged with assaulting a woman in her vehicle. This isn't about gender politics. This is about violence. Save your persecution narrative for your podcast. The courtroom stirred. I could see several of Tate's followers in the gallery. Young men wearing shirts with his face and slogans like Escape the Matrix and Top G. They were recording everything on their phones. Mr. Tate, you're aware that Uber vehicles have internal cameras? Yes, Your Honor. Which is why I know this entire case is fabricated. That camera will show I did nothing wrong. Ms. Park, I said, turning to the prosecutor, Assistant District Attorney Rachel Park, a woman who'd spent 15 years prosecuting violence against women cases. Please present the evidence. Rachel approached with a tablet. Your Honor, we have complete footage from the Uber vehicle's internal camera system. 42 minutes of video and audio. May I play the relevant segments? I nodded. The lights dimmed. The first segment showed Sarah's car pulling up to a Miami nightclub at 2:17 a.m. Andrew Tate approached with two young women, both appearing intoxicated, wearing revealing club attire. Tate opened the door aggressively, not waiting for Sarah's greeting. The audio was crystal clear. Sarah's voice, professional and kind. Good evening, I'm Sarah, your Uber driver. I have water bottles in the back if anyone needs them. The destination is 4750 Ocean Drive, correct? Tate's voice, already slurred from alcohol. Yeah, that's right. Hey, driver, you're actually pretty decent looking for an Uber driver. Most of you are fat and ugly. You must not have kids yet. Once women have kids, they let themselves go. It's disgusting. Sarah's voice, still professional but slightly uncomfortable. Sir, let's just focus on getting you home safely. Tate laughed. See, this is the problem with Western women. No sense of humor. Can't take a compliment. I just said you're attractive and you get offended. This is why I moved to Romania. Women there understand their role. One of the women with Tate giggled nervously. The other looked uncomfortable. Sarah's voice, firmer now. Sir, I'd appreciate if we could keep the conversation professional. Tate's voice getting aggressive. Professional? You're an Uber driver. You're basically a taxi. You're not a CEO. Don't talk to me about professional. You know what your job is? Your job is to drive and be quiet. That's it. You're a service provider. You serve me. I'm the customer. Know your place. Sarah's voice, calm but assertive. Sir, if you continue speaking to me this way, I'll have to end this ride. That's when Tate leaned forward. The camera showed him clearly. His face was inches from the plexiglass divider. End the ride? Do you know who I am? I'm Andrew Tate. I'm worth $350 million. I have 8.7 million followers. I could buy your car with the cash in my pocket right now. You think you can end my ride? You exist because men like me allow you to exist. You drive this car because the man who invented cars let you. You have this job because Uber, created by men, lets women pretend they're independent. Sarah pulled the car over. Sir, this ride is over. Please exit my vehicle. Tate's voice, venomous now. You're ending my ride? I don't think so. You're going to drive me home. You're going to be quiet, and you're going to thank me for the 5 stars I might give you if you behave. Because that's what women do. They serve. They obey. They know their value compared to a man's value. Sarah reached for her phone. I'm calling Uber support. That's when Tate moved. The camera showed him reaching through the small opening in the divider, his hand grabbing Sarah's wrist. She cried out in pain. He twisted her arm, his face showing rage. You're not calling anyone. You're going to drive, now, or I'll make sure you never drive for Uber again. I know people. I know executives. One call and you're blacklisted. Your kids need this money, right? Single mom? Yeah, I can tell. No ring. Driving Uber at 2 a.m. Your man left you because you're probably insufferable. So here's what's going to happen. You drive, you shut up, and maybe you keep your job. Sarah was crying now, trying to pull her wrist free. Please, you're hurting me. Let go. Tate released her wrist and laughed. Hurting you? I barely touched you. This is the problem with modern women. Everything is abuse. Everything is assault. You're weak. This is why women shouldn't have jobs like this. You can't handle confrontation. Sarah, voice shaking, started the car and continued driving, clearly afraid. The two women with Tate were silent, looking at their phones, pretending nothing was happening. 5 minutes passed in tense silence. Then Tate spoke again. "Hey driver, I'm sorry. I had too much to drink. Let's start over. What's your name?" "Sarah," voice barely above a whisper. Sarah, pretty name. "Look, I know I came on strong. But you have to understand. I'm a public figure. I'm under a lot of stress. People attack me constantly because I speak truth. I teach men to be strong. To not let women control them. And women hate me for it because I expose their game. You understand, right?" Sarah said nothing. "You know what your problem is, Sarah? You're probably a feminist. You probably think women and men are equal. But we're not. Men built everything. Men create. Men protect. Women consume. Women need protection. That's biology. And you got mad at me because I stated facts. That's emotional. That's female. That's weakness." Sarah's voice, stronger now. "Sir, we're almost at your destination. Please just let me finish this ride." Tate leaned forward again. "You think you're better than me? You think driving this car makes you independent? You're a single mom working at night because some man left you. You're struggling. You're probably broke. Your kids probably barely see you. And you're lecturing me about respect? I'm successful because I understand reality. You're barely surviving because you believed the feminist lie." They arrived at the mansion. Sarah pulled into the driveway. "The fare is $47.32. Please exit my vehicle." Tate pulled out a wad of cash. "Here's $50. Keep the change. See? I'm generous. More generous than you deserve. This is how a high-value man treats even low-value women. With charity." He opened the door to exit. Then he turned back. "One more thing, Sarah. You're going to give me 5 stars. Because if you don't, if you complain, if you try to report this, I will destroy you. I have millions of followers. One post and they'll find you. They'll find your kids. They'll make your life hell. Do you understand me?" Sarah's voice, terrified. "Yes. Please just leave." Tate punched the back of her seat hard, the sound echoing in the car. "I said, do you understand me?" "Yes, I understand. Good girl. See? You can learn. That's what women need. Strong men to teach them." He started to exit. Then Sarah, finding courage, said something that changed everything. "You're not strong. You're a bully. Real strength doesn't require hurting people weaker than you." The camera showed Tate freeze. He turned back slowly. "What did you just say to me?" Sarah, crying but defiant. "I said real men don't need to hurt women to feel powerful. You're not an alpha. You're just angry and sad." Tate's face turned red. "You stupid bitch. You have no idea who you're talking to." He reached back into the car, grabbed Sarah's phone from the dashboard mount, and threw it down, cracking the screen. Then he took his metal Bugatti keychain from his pocket and threw it at her face. It hit her cheek, cutting the skin. Sarah screamed. "That's what happens when you disrespect me. Remember this. Remember that your words have consequences. Low-value females need to learn their place." He slammed the door and walked into his mansion. The two women with him followed silently. Sarah sat in her car, bleeding, crying, and immediately called 911. When the lights came back on, the courtroom was completely silent. Several people in the gallery looked sick. Even Tate's followers had stopped recording. I looked at Andrew Tate, whose face showed nothing, no shame, no remorse, just the cold calculation of someone wondering how to spin this for his audience. "Mr. Tate, you just watched yourself assault a woman, threaten her children, and throw an object at her face. Do you still maintain your innocence?" Marcus Webb stood immediately. "Your Honor, my client was intoxicated. His statements were crude but they're protected speech. The physical contact was minimal. Sarah wasn't seriously injured, and my client has no prior criminal record. This is being prosecuted because of who my client is and what he represents. If this were anyone else, it would be a misdemeanor at most. Counselor, your client grabbed a woman's wrist hard enough to leave bruises. Threatened her livelihood, threatened her children, destroyed her property, cut her face, all captured on video. This isn't speech. This is violence. Your Honor, my client is willing to pay restitution. He's willing to compensate Sarah for any distress. He's willing to issue a public apology. But jail time for what amounts to a drunken argument would be excessive and politically motivated. I turned to Andrew Tate. Mr. Tate, you make millions teaching young men that women are inferior. That violence against women is justified. That dominance is masculinity. You have influenced millions of boys and men worldwide. Some of your followers have committed violence against women citing your teachings. You're not just a criminal defendant. You're an ideology merchant. And your ideology is that women like Sarah are less than human. Now address the court. Tell me why you think you should face no consequences. Tate stood. When he spoke, his voice carried none of his usual bravado. Your Honor, I'm a businessman. I sell courses. I teach men self-improvement. Yes, I have controversial views about gender. But they're just opinions. Words. Sarah got offended by words. Everything else was blown out of proportion. I've been to 43 countries. I've built businesses that employ hundreds of people. I've helped thousands of men become confident and successful. Because I said some things she didn't like while drunk, now I'm here. This is political correctness gone insane. Mr. Tate, you threw a metal object at her face. You cut her. You threatened her children. Those aren't words. She provoked me. She insulted me. I reacted. Should I have thrown the keychain? No. But she called me sad and angry. She disrespected me in front of women I was with. That's emasculating. Any man would react. So you're saying Sarah deserved to be cut because she defended herself verbally? I'm saying actions have consequences. She wanted to have a feminist moment. She got a reality check. The courtroom erupted in angry whispers. Tate's followers were recording again, nodding along. His attorney was gesturing for him to stop talking, but Tate ignored him. Ms. Mitchell, please approach. Sarah stood slowly and walked forward. Up close, I could see the thin scar on her cheek where the keychain had cut her. Her wrists still had faint bruising. She looked exhausted, the way single mothers do when they're working multiple jobs and raising kids alone. Ms. Mitchell, tell me what this incident has done to your life. She spoke quietly, her voice carrying the weariness of someone who'd been afraid for weeks. Your Honor, I've been driving for Uber for 3 years. It's how I support my 2 kids, ages 7 and 9. After that night, I was terrified to drive again. Every time a passenger got in, I wondered if they were one of his followers. I started getting messages on my social media. People found my name from the police report. They sent me death threats. They called me a liar. They said I deserved worse. Someone posted my home address online. Tears filled her eyes. My daughter asked me why people were saying mean things about mommy on the internet. She's 7 years old. How do I explain that? I had to take her out of school for a week because someone posted a picture of the school and said Andrew's fans should pay me a visit. But worse than the threats was what he said to me. I've been divorced for 2 years. My ex-husband left and doesn't pay child support. I work 60 hours a week doing Uber and cleaning offices at night. I'm exhausted all the time. And when Andrew Tate said I'm a low-value woman, that I'm weak, that I'm failing, part of me believed him. Because I am struggling, I am tired, and hearing someone successful say that women like me are worthless, it hurt. It made me feel like maybe he's right. Maybe I am failing. She looked at Tate directly. But then I realized something. I'm working 60 hours a week to feed my kids. I'm doing it alone. I'm sacrificing sleep and time and happiness to make sure they have food and clothes and a home. And you, Mr. Tate, you make money telling young boys that people like me are worthless. You make millions teaching them to see their mothers, their sisters, their future wives as property. And those boys grow up to be men who hurt women, who abuse women, who kill women. Your words have consequences too. The courtroom was silent except for the sound of Sarah crying softly. I looked at Andrew Tate, who was staring at his phone again, scrolling through what looked like Twitter, completely unmoved by her testimony. Mr. Tate, put the phone away. He looked up, irritated. Your Honor, I'm checking on my businesses. I have employees depending on me. Your employees can wait. You're in court facing serious charges. Show some respect. He put the phone in his pocket with exaggerated slowness. Mr. Tate, you heard Sarah's testimony. You made her feel worthless. You threatened her children. You've inspired threats against her family. What do you have to say? He shrugged. I'm sorry she feels that way. But feelings aren't facts. I didn't threaten her kids. I said my followers could find her. That's just reality when you're famous. I didn't tell them to do anything. And if she felt worthless, that's her internal issue. I just stated facts about female nature. So you're not apologetic? For what? Having opinions? No. For throwing a keychain at her face? For cutting her? Another shrug. I was drunk. People do stupid things drunk. I'll pay for her medical bills. Mr. Tate, stand up. He stood, towering at 6 feet 3 inches, his muscular frame intended to intimidate. But I'd been on this bench for 30 years. I'd faced gang leaders, mob bosses, corporate executives who thought power made them untouchable. Andrew Tate was just another bully in an expensive suit. Mr. Tate, you're 37 years old. You're a grown man. You built a fortune teaching millions of young men that women are inferior, that violence against women is acceptable, that dominance equals masculinity. You have influenced boys as young as 12 years old. Reports show that in schools across America and Europe, boys are citing your teachings while bullying and assaulting girls. You're not just a criminal. You're a radicalization engine. And you just sat in my courtroom, watched video of yourself assaulting a working mother, and showed zero remorse. Here is my finding. You are guilty of aggravated assault. The video evidence is irrefutable. You grabbed Sarah Mitchell's wrist, twisted it, caused bruising and pain. You are guilty of battery. You threw a metal object at her face, cutting her skin. You are guilty of criminal threatening. You explicitly threatened her employment and her children's safety. You are guilty of destruction of property. You damaged her phone and vehicle. His face flushed slightly, the first sign of actual emotion. Your Honor, I'm not finished. Here is your sentence. For aggravated assault and battery, 18 months in county jail. For criminal threatening, 1 year to be served consecutively. For destruction of property, 6 months. Total of 3 years in custody. The courtroom exploded. His attorneys were shouting. His followers were recording everything, already typing furiously. Tate himself looked genuinely shocked for the first time. Your Honor, Marcus Webb was screaming over the chaos. 3 years for a bar argument? This is outrageous. This is clearly motivated by my client's political views. We will appeal to federal court. Counselor, your client violently assaulted a woman while spouting ideology that inspired death threats against her family. 3 years is appropriate for someone who has radicalized millions of young men into viewing women as subhuman. Additionally, I'm ordering Mr. Tate to pay $250,000 in restitution to Sarah Mitchell. This includes her medical expenses, her lost wages from being unable to work, pain and suffering, and compensation for the online harassment she's endured. I'm also ordering Mr. Tate to remove all content from his platforms that references Sarah Mitchell or this case. And I'm issuing a protective order prohibiting him from any contact with her, directly or through his followers. Tate was shaking his head, a slight smile on his face like this was all absurd. This won't stand. You're making me a martyr. My followers will see this for what it is. Persecution. And when I get out, I'll be bigger than ever. Mr. Tate, you can tell yourself whatever story you need. But right now, you're going to jail. Bailiff, take him into custody. Officers approached. Tate turned to his videographer. Keep recording. Get everything. This is going to be legendary content. As they put handcuffs on him, he was already performing for the camera. This is what happens when you speak truth. They silence you. They cage you. But they can't break you. Remember that, brothers. This system fears strong men. Mr. Tate, I said, you're not being silenced for speaking truth. You're going to jail for assault. For violence. For hurting a woman who was just trying to earn money to feed her children. There's nothing strong about that. There's nothing masculine about that. That's just cruelty. He looked at me then, and for a brief moment, the performance dropped. His face showed something I'd seen 1,000 times in defendants, the flash of realization that consequences are real. The bailiff led him away. He was still talking to the camera until the doors closed. Within an hour, it was worldwide news. The Manosphere exploded. His followers called me every name imaginable. Feminist, simp, gynocrat, beta male. They doxed me, sent threats, posted my picture with crosshairs. Hashtags like FreeTopG and Tate was right trended globally. But something else happened too. Women started sharing their stories. Domestic violence survivors. Mothers of sons who'd been radicalized by Tate's content. Teachers who'd seen boys treating girls with cruelty, citing Tate's teachings. They thanked me. They said finally someone held him accountable. 2 months later, The Florida Court of Appeals upheld my sentence unanimously. Their opinion stated, teaching millions of young men that violence against women is acceptable creates foreseeable harm. When the teacher himself commits that violence, enhanced sentencing is appropriate. Judge Caprio's sentence reflects both the defendant's actions and his broader influence as an ideology merchant of misogyny. Andrew Tate is currently serving his sentence. Sarah Mitchell received her restitution and has since started a nonprofit supporting female rideshare drivers who experience harassment and assault. She gave one interview, saying, "What Judge Caprio did that day wasn't just about me. It was about every woman who's been told she's worthless, every mother working herself to exhaustion, every girl being taught by boys that she's inferior. Justice mattered. It still matters." If this story moved you, subscribe. Share it with anyone who needs to understand that misogyny has consequences, that teaching millions to hate women is dangerous, that real strength is standing up for those with less power, not dominating them. Andrew Tate used his platform and his wealth in my courtroom. I gave him 3 years in jail and proved that in America, no one, not even a self-proclaimed alpha male with millions of followers, is above the law.